What are you doing, Tina?
What are you doing, Jenny?
We are two women living our best lives in the Black Hills of South Dakota, sharing our stories, laughs, and projects happening in the garage.
Whether you're looking for a bit of joy, a spark of creativity, or just a comforting voice, you can find it here. Unicorn!
What have you guys been up to? Because you got like a glow, like a tan, and you're smiling.
Did we get some color?
You smell like fresh air.
Oh yeah, we had a lot of it.
We did have a lot of it this weekend. Sorry, go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
We were up in Medora, North Dakota all weekend.
Really? North
yes.
Dakota?
Mm-hmm.
We drove up Friday morning, and our dear sweet friend that we have met through the power of social media, Danielle Foster, she is an attorney in Fargo? Minot?
Or yeah.
I think Fargo, but she
Fargo.
grew up in
Yeah.
Minot, if I remember correctly.
That's
Where
right.
the oil is.
Yeah. So she
And a golfer.
has this passion to bring golf to young girls. Like, it is a passion project, and this was their third year of doing a camp and then a little competition on day 2 at Bully Pulpit, which I had heard of.
It's a golf course.
Thank you.
But I had never been to Madora, and I had never, had a chance to see the golf course. It is a fantastic layout, gorgeous club, just beautiful views. It's in the middle of
The North Dakota Badlands.
Yes.
So it's in Theodore Roosevelt National Park. And so there's the golf course, but then there's these the Badlands kind of frame the golf course and provide this beautiful backdrop. So it's almost like a golf course was plopped in the middle of like a lunar landscape.
Oh, that's
if you
awesome.
can imagine that. So this green, lush, beautiful course in the middle of like the moon is how it feels.
and it sits part of the golf course sits down in this valley, and there's a river that runs through, and then part of the golf course is up on the bluffs with all these tall fescue and these boulders and this ever-changing colors of the landscape because of the Badlands. And I don't know, it
was magical.
We needed a road trip, and I had been invited to be the keynote speaker on opening night for these young girls, 108 of them. So it's 4 hours away. It's an easy drive, but yet you feel like you've
Away.
gotten out of town. So yeah, it was a pretty remarkable weekend.
It was amazing.
Tell me about it.
Well, so we drove up on Friday. We got there, kind of got checked in, and then we went out to the golf course, and we knew that a lot of the pod leaders and Danielle were out on the course golfing. So we grab a golf cart and just drive the course and kind of caught up with them on a hole. And then just a great bunch of women, most of whom played golf in college. And, I have to tell you, like, I came away from the weekend because when you grow an athlete, when you grow a female athlete, you grow so much more than that. And I told Tina on the way home, I said, Danielle is growing a crop of future women leaders in North Dakota. And that is so exciting. Just to have the opportunity and access to these young girls to, work on their golf, obviously. The Saturday was all about golf clinics, which Tina ran one, and I had a pod of girls. But, the golf is one thing, but then there's all these intangibles that are part of the game. But also, then we had like a dinner on Saturday night. I was on a leadership panel, and then we broke out into small groups. And, it was just these women, these amazing women were on the panel with me to give these girls these not like our best advice, you know, from where we sit now, being like, you know, it's almost like you're prepping a little soldier to go into the battle of the world and being like, and don't forget about this. And here's a trick for this. And here's how, you know, you stay motivated. And here's how you don't let things, you know, get you down. And here's how you move through struggles and conflict. And it was incredible. It was amazing. And I just can't even say enough about how much it filled our cup.
Yeah, and I think one of the questions that Danielle asked, there were so many good questions, but one of them that she asked, I loved your take, your response, and it was, what is your view, or how do you handle resilience? You know, what does that mean to you now?
Yeah. You know, I think I had resilience all wrong for a lot of my life. I thought that resilience was that you were impervious, like there was a force field around you, and bad things that would come at you, or challenges or hard times, would just bounce off that if you were resilient.
Same.
Because you're resilient.
Mm-hmm.
That's not what it is. Turns out resilience is allowing all of that to come in. And to be resilient, it's how quick you integrate that, process it, feel the feeling, and move to a place of being solution-oriented. That is resilience. And so for a long time, I felt like I was failing at resilience because I'm a very sensitive feeling person.
Mm-hmm.
And things affect me, and I feel emotions. And then so I thought that I wasn't resilient. No, that's wrong. We are supposed to feel the feelings when challenges come, when hard things happen. It doesn't mean that we don't feel it. It just means that what am I going to do with that right now? And how quick can I implement those coping mechanisms that I have in my toolkit to move to a place of being in crisis or stress, to a place of turning that into positive action and momentum moving forward.
Mm-hmm.
And so it took me 30 years to learn resilience, and now I got to tell them. And you know what was so cool? They took notes. They were all writing.
You have
as
all
I was
these
saying.
girls, sitting around this room.
Oh my gosh, if there was like one thing I wanted you to write down, it was that, you know.
That moment, like you're talking to these people and they're just soaking it all in. You can tell them anything.
Yeah, it was super cool.
It was so, and to watch even the adults in the room, you know, because you've got to remember 108 kids, but there are dozens and dozens of volunteers, pod leaders, instructors, people from the Teddy Roosevelt Foundation
who sponsor this entire thing. It's the Teddy Roosevelt Medora Foundation.
Yep.
And everything up there is Teddy Roosevelt.
Really?
Yeah.
And they call him TR if you're local.
If you're local. So to see even the CEO of the foundation who was there and watch him as you are talking through that, for everybody to go, huh? What? Mm-hmm. Like this, they had this total head tilt moment, that aha moment that so many people talk about. What resonated with me is you don't have to be, like you said, you're not a deflector, you're a filter.
Mm-hmm.
That's what makes you resilient, is how do you filter the things.
That's good.
That you're,
everybody write that down. You're not a deflector, you're a filter.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. You take that in. It's okay. Like you said, it's okay to feel the emotion of that, whether it's sadness or anger or bewilderment or frustration or disappointment. Yes, exactly. Any of those things and all of those things. But then filter that through you And what does that look like on the other side of the filter? How do you purify that? How do you move that through to exactly what you said, positive action?
That is
I loved that.
mind blowing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love that. I'm so glad you brought that up.
Yeah, resilience. It's not like you're a duck and the water rolls off you. No, it's how quick you can take it in, integrate it, and then move on in the best way for that situation.
Because if you think about it, resilience is the place where, in my opinion, you learn the most lessons. You've had the hard thing or the bad thing or the disappointing thing or the maybe didn't meet my expectation thing happen to you. And how you respond to that is how you grow and how we get better and how we learn.
Yeah.
And I loved your response to that question.
Yeah, I've always thought of the word resilience as something elegant, but it's not always elegant.
No. It's actually the messy middle. Resilience is the messy middle because, on the front end, whatever, an outer thing happens that you have no control over. And sometimes in the beginning, you don't even have control over your response to it. You just feel how you feel, right? And so instead of denying those feelings, let's get started, right? Feel it then. Give yourself permission, give yourself some time, really sit with it, journal about it, talk to a friend about it, talk to a therapist, talk to a life coach. All those things are what lead you then to be able to move through, and how quick you can turn it into a positive and go in a direction is resilience. That's resilient.
These are the things that Jenny often talks about in her life coaching sessions is this package, this word resilience, and sitting in the suck, kind of. It's okay to feel the feelings, but what are you going to do to rise above? What are you going to do to not stay there and stay stuck in the suck?
I'm doing a whole summer of life coaching for teens, all around goal setting and coming up with strategies and ways to not only identify and prioritize goals, but then a plan to execute on those goals and remove the barriers that kids feel between them and where they want to be. It's exciting. I love working with youth. It's just, there's just something so full of possibility about it.
Right? You're such a good mom. You mom all the kids. When we were up there, you have these 108 kids. They're 9 or 10 little pod leaders, and Jenny is one of the pod leaders, the pod moms. And she had this perfect age group of kids that fall in our wheelhouse because
they're 12 and 13.
I get to be 12 with them, and Jenny gets to mom them.
They were still young enough to be snuggly and sweet and cute, the first night we got introduced to our pods, and so I had everyone get their phone out and put my cell phone number in there, and I got 3 texts that night. Hi, Jenny, this is, I'll just make up a name, Jacqueline. I'm going to bed now. I said, okay, honey, good night. See you tomorrow. It was sweet.
When we got to the golf course on Saturday morning, it was hot Saturday. It was high temperature, no clouds. The sun itself was very intense. And by midday, you could see these kids are taking full swings for 6, 7, 8 hours out there in different stations underneath the sun, baking all day. And I have Jenny's pod comes to us. They were like the 6th or 7th group through my station. And they're all like, Jenny gets them out, lines them all up, like, okay, it's time to sunscreen. And she's spraying all the kids like the moms, and they're getting dum-dum suckers out of Jenny's cart. And, you know, she's got all the waters laid out. Like, it's like
cold towels.
It's like taking 10 or 12 girls to the lake or to the pool.
Gosh.
The soccer mom.
Yeah,
fun.
Exactly. Juice boxes and orange
Oh my
slices.
gosh, I loved it. It reminded me of, you know, when the kids were littler, and so great.
It was fun.
Yeah.
It
awesome.
was a great weekend.
Tell us about your keynote, because it was amazing. So Tina gave the keynote
Really?
on Friday night when everyone got there, and that really kind of sets the tone for the whole weekend. And we came out with a couple great takeaways and a theme word for the weekend, which was...
I taught the girls Boomshakalaka.
Oh, yes!
So we heard Boomshakalaka all over the course all weekend long. It was awesome.
You know, you have some parents and stuff that are still in there after dropping their kid. And again, all of the volunteers and whatnot, they're in this room. And I'm standing in the middle of the room, and we're talking about a little bit about my background and, you know, where I grew up, the things that I've done in my career. But then it's a pivot of how do you talk to 12 and 13-year-olds about things like resilience or things like, you know, expectation and who's in charge of your expectations, and how do you process that, and how to own a room with confidence, and what are some things that you can do to prepare yourself for things of that nature. And one of the visuals, you know, at that age, I like to visually talk through what those words mean, rather than a textbook definition or what have you. And I pulled up a chair and I sat down, and I said, if I sit with my shoulders rounded and my arms crossed in front of me, and maybe I'm hunched over a little bit, my feet are maybe behind the legs of the chair with, you know, kind of this, you know, I'm making myself small and I'm looking down at the ground. Does that look like somebody that wants to be called upon, is confident in themselves, and then I changed my body position. I sat back in the chair, I crossed my legs, shoulders up and back, I'm making eye contact, I stood up, I'm walking around, I'm using my hands a lot. And I said, or does this type of body language portray confidence? And to watch them go like, oh yeah, no, I do that. No, I do. Like, so, you know, the fake it till you make it, or to walk in and own the room. It's okay for you to feel like you're the smartest one in the room.
Oh, yeah. Like raise your head up. I always tell my coaching clients, like, don't be afraid to take up space. Mm-hmm. Don't be afraid to ask questions. The chances are, if you have a question, there might be other people in the room that have the same question, but they're afraid to ask it. Like, be the one that takes the lead, you know, because that sets the tone.
And so that led to having this really heart-to-heart talk about expectations, especially as an athlete. You, at these ages, you know, these 12 to 17, 18-year-old, you know, really high school girls, incoming freshmen to incoming senior year. And there are a lot of expectations. There are family expectations. There are school expectations from your teachers and about grades. And, you know, if you play multiple sports, or if you're in band or in 4-H, or, you know, you have chores around the farm or around the house, like there is a boatload of expectations. And yes, those things are important. But when it comes to the growth of themselves and building up their own picture of self-worth and confidence, the only people's expectations that matter are theirs. And they need to, we talked about ways and strategies of how do I define that? How do I prioritize those things? And that it's okay to maybe let somebody else down by definition in order to satisfy a goal or a priority or an expectation that they have set for themselves. So we talked a lot, and in doing that, I said, life is hard. Just like I talk about it all the time. Life is freaking hard. And as a society, we have somehow gotten to this place where we feel like it's okay to pass judgment and to spew these words of negativity and aggressiveness and
entitlement.
You could have, should have, would have done it differently. When we don't know what they're carrying. We don't walk their walk. So when did this become okay? And it's not okay.
No.
And I said, so if you need to stop and you need to own the spot that you're in, we talked about grounding. We talked about literally giving yourself a hug.
We taught them how to box breathe.
Yes.
Do you know how to box breathe?
No.
Okay, I'm going to give a lesson. So you do it as I say it. So I'm going to explain it first and then we'll do it. So the first thing you're going to do is you're going to inhale through your nose through a count of 4. You're going to hold it for a count of 4. Then you're going to let it out for a count of 4. And then you're going to rest for a count of 4.
And then it repeats.
And then you can repeat it as many times as you need. I usually do two to 3. But if you're spinning out and you're feeling unregulated, box breathing is a great way to just slow your brain down and to slow your body down. And so there's scientific research that backs box breathing because you literally can't do both things at the same time. You can't be spinning out in anxiety and doing the box breathing at the same time. So super helpful for any kind of athlete or
stressful,
person or human in the world.
Ridden.
Yeah,
Yep.
because we all have anxiety.
And then we brought it down a minute, and I told them that for me, when I'm feeling some of those things, I will just say the word Boomshakalaka. And they all started looking at me, and all the parents laughed, right? All the adults laughed. And I said, it doesn't matter what the word means. You could make it mean whatever, but you can't say the word Boomshakalaka without laughing.
Without feeling good.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It literally brings me joy every time I
Boomshakalaka.
say it. I laugh, I giggle, I smile.
Yeah.
And so we talked about that word. And for the next 24 hours, I probably heard Boomshakalaka, kids saying it to each other, but most importantly to me, and they would high five, and it was hard high fives.
Oh, nice.
My hand was red. Probably 1,000 times.
It was
no
so
joke.
great.
It was super fun. And then I saw the little group of the little older women that were helping with on the range.
The shepherds of the course.
Yes.
Yeah. They herded us where we needed
they
to
did.
be. And
I heard them saying boom shakalaka to each other. It was so cute. It was
Yeah.
so fun.
We started
was
saying boom
amazing.
shakalaka around here.
Yes.
At Home Slice, and now at my home as well.
Yes.
see,
It's
so
It spreads
good.
like wildfire.
It does, but it's just if you just need a reality break, a little box breathing and some boom shakalaka.
You can fit it in anywhere.
You
If you
can.
don't have an answer to a question,
Yes.
boom
Boom
shakalaka
shakalaka.
answers
Boom
every
shakalaka.
question.
Yes.
Yeah. It can
How
also
are
be
you
like
today? Boom
a
shakalaka?
natural ender for you're ready to go, nobody knows what to say. Boom shakalaka.
And
Yeah.
away you go.
Peace out.
So, we had a phenomenal weekend with these young girls that was so inspirational. and to see their little faces at the end and come up and get so many hugs, like, are you going to be here at camp next year? And it just
Great. And a highlight, our friend Lisa Sisson got a hole-in-one on
did.
Friday at Bully
Yep.
Pulpit.
Yep.
Lisa Sisson.
Yep, that was pretty
Shout
awesome.
out.
Little shout out. The staff, Max and Jesse and all the golf professionals at the club, on point. They just
Super
are
amazing.
super good at their craft, and we just had a great time. It's not like we were gone for the.
But
We
it
left
felt,
Friday and came home yesterday, but
I think to be outside all day too.
Yes.
Somewhere, I mean, I know it was hot, but it was beautiful. Like it couldn't even have been more perfect.
yeah.
There's something about being somewhere where everybody has a passion for the same thing.
Sure.
It's just, it makes you
Yeah.
feel like a family
Yeah.
when you spend that
And
amount of time together.
all these little short couple minute connections with each of the girls, as they're coming through my station. You talk to them as a group, but then they spread out and work on the thing we're talking about, and I get to go from each one of them to each one of them and just build them up and tell them they're doing well.
And the caliber of the other instructors, the people that were at each of the stations, was absolutely amazing. I mean, talk about some powerhouse women athletes who are professionals now. But we met Lauren Keller,
Yep.
and she is an incredible golfer, but just a sweet girl who is, I mean, she's young and beautiful and hip, and she's a golfer, and all those girls just
Yeah, it's like having
idolized
an
her.
older
It
sister.
was like having Taylor Swift at your golf
Yeah.
camp, kind of.
She
was awesome.
She just finished her sophomore year in college, and she is in the transfer portal right now, going to look at University of Sioux Falls and maybe Mankato. Just a student of the game. Like,
Oh my
she
gosh.
understands the mechanics.
Every time
and-
she pulled Tina aside, it was like some conversation way over my head. She was like, what
Yeah,
were you guys talking about? Like, you were talking about the
Yeah.
short game or?
Yeah, we were talking about all kinds of things, but just, positioning at the top and tempo and where she's coming into the ball and hip, just all kinds of spine angle and launch angle and ball speed, all the mechanics of the game that anymore I don't get a chance to talk about that type of verbiage, using that type of conversation. And it was super fun for me to meet a young girl that's totally into the analytics of her craft.
She's a mini you.
Oh, she is so much farther ahead at that age than I ever was. She's just a great player. And she's such a sweet human. Danielle did an amazing job of really pulling in the right people for young girls to spend time
great.
with.
You did some TikTok videos while you're there.
Yeah,
Is
I
she the
did.
one in the videos?
No, that was our friend Jocelyn, and she was one of the, and we had just met her. She was one of the other pod leaders, and so when we went out to the course that day, we get out to the course and everybody's golfing their round and having a good time. But of course, Tina shows up and all of a sudden class is in session. So we Tina gave a couple little tips to her that I caught on video, and it was great.
And the girls that were there as not just instructors, but as pod leaders and really in support of Danielle, who has had this idea of this passion project that came to life, I think even sooner in her life than what she thought, is, these women are athletes. They have played college basketball.
A lot of D1 athletes.
Yeah, they have, and so they get it. They understand the need for, mental toughness, but also the emotional IQ that is needed and the implementation of time management and those skills and how to encourage. And, I think it was maybe Kate that said during your
Panel.
leadership panel something to the effect, at least this was my takeaway from something she said, that we don't have to step on somebody to make ourselves be bigger or better. It's okay to encourage other players, even if they're competitors, even if they're not your teammate. In golf, it's you against the course and everybody else that's playing the course. So I loved the message of, I don't have to put somebody down in order to lift myself up.
Right. I also talked about, this was a leadership panel, and a lot of times kids, especially teenagers, will say, well, I'm not in a leadership position, or I don't have the opportunity to lead. And so I always bring in the analogy of the school group project, right? And these are high achieving girls. These are perfectionists. They want to excel. And so for people like that, if you have ever been part of a group project, you end up doing most of the work. You're disappointed in the participation of your other team members, or what they contribute to the project isn't up to your standard. Leadership opportunity right there. As the person who is driven to excellence and wants to, put forth their best effort, and now all of a sudden you're part of the, you drew numbers and you're part of this ragtag group that isn't going to do it right, there's your leadership opportunity. What do you think every coach does when they get plopped this group of people that don't necessarily fit together, right? I mean, it's teamwork. How are you going to create teamwork and an equitable division that plays to everybody's strengths while making sure you all succeed as a team? Leadership, group project. Yeah.
It reminded me of a lesson that I learned, excuse me, and I think it was maybe Doug Stanford, my high school basketball coach, or Brad LaCroix, my junior high coach. It was somewhere in that time frame that just triggered when you were saying what you just said, that you don't have to have a title to be a leader.
Yeah, you don't.
And I wish I would have recalled that and been able to share that with those girls. You don't have to have a title to be a leader.
No. We also had them come up with who would be on their own personal Mount Rushmore. The monument,
Such
right?
a great question.
Do you want to go? We're going to ask you, Amy, so think about it for a minute. But do you want to say who would be on yours?
Yeah. I think one of the people that I would put on is Melinda Gates.
Ooh, that's a good one. Why?
I think, given the adversity that she went through very publicly, you talk about resilience,
right?
That whole dynamic of her personal, her marriage, her private relationship, and how she processed and came out the other side of not just how it could affect, those negative relationship and very publicly happening. And it's just like Bezos' wife, right? It's
and identity too, because for so long they were Bill and Melinda Gates,
yes,
right? And then you split from somebody high profile like that, where you almost have this co-opted identity, and now, who are you individually?
Right.
How do you reconcile
how do
all
you
of that?
how do you reinvent yourself after a loss, after a setback, after not meeting an expectation, and to just, she's a badass. She talk about rising above, and just the work that she does.
Yeah, charitably,
her philanthropy and the things that she's passionate about. And I don't know, I think so many people say, oh, I would want Oprah. And that's fine. That's okay. Like, totally worthy human. But I think that there are equally lesser known people that we need to expose young people to.
Yeah.
And
sure.
and she would be one for me.
Yeah.
How about you?
Dory from Finding Nemo.
Yes.
It's on my Mount Rushmore.
Yes.
Because keep
Yes.
swimming, right?
Yes.
And she's like optimistic, she's friendly, and because she has short-term memory loss, you know, she's forgetful, but she always asks for help along the way to get where she's going. And I think if you always remember to ask for the help that you need along the way, and you stay optimistic and you're friendly, you'll go far.
I love that. That's a good one.
How about you?
Do you know who Amy Purdy is?
Yes.
I don't.
Amen.
Who is that?
Oh my gosh.
Who's
what
Amy
a
Purdy?
great choice.
The Amy Purdy was a snowboarder, and she came down with meningitis, and she ended up losing her legs.
Oh.
And she laid in bed for months, you know, because she just felt like a patchwork doll. Her body, she didn't think she was going to even survive, and just overcoming that obstacle in her life. And one day she just woke up and she decided she wanted to snowboard again. She could
Wow.
feel it on her face. I know her TED Talk like by heart. and so she
How do you
decided
spell
to
her last name? So
Purdy.
okay, Amy Purdy.
Yeah.
Let's all
Great
go watch
TED
the TED
Talk.
Talk.
And
Yeah.
she at the end of her talk, she always says, "You don't let borders stop you. You push off of them." And so she ended up coming up with legs
Like
where people could
prosthetics, yeah.
snowboard
Yeah.
without pain. And she went on to
Wow.
win medals after that.
Unbelievable. I have not listened to that TED Talk, and I'm going to do it right
Get
after
a box
this.
of tissues.
Oh,
Okay, I will. That's amazing.
I can't
Yeah.
believe I have listened to a TED Talk that you have not listened to.
that
I
never happens.
feel like I just won the Olympics today.
But seeing what she went through and where she took it, talk about
Yeah.
resilience.
right? Amazing.
What a great choice.
Oh, I love her.
What a great choice.
Don't
Amy.
ever think you're in a bad spot where it's going to
Yeah.
take you away.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Go listen to that first.
Oh my gosh.
Great.
Great choice.
It's been good, kids.
Yeah.
This is good nuggets right here.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Our phones are going crazy.
Medora
Yeah.
Golf Camp.
Medora Golf Camp. Thank you, Danielle Foster.
Thank you.
Like, she crushed it. And this is only year 3. And they sold out early, like way early, and they had to put people on the wait list. And they would love to be able to take more, but between, you know, it's the beginning of the shoulder season up there, so accommodations and staffing, and so I think like there's one girl. I'll leave with this, and you're talking about having future leaders in that room. I want to tell you one story of someone that I nominated for like that, or Danielle's little award. There is a young high school student. I won't share her name, but she is going to graduate high school with 40 college credits already
Wow.
under her belt.
What?
That's huge.
How?
Are you kidding?
She's taken that many AP
Wow.
classes. She is unbelievably talented. Not just as a student, but her athletic prowess, her emotional, like, just availability. She was the center of her group. And I just,
That's so good.
she is going to do huge things. I can't wait to see where she goes.
And you know, they're all going to do more than they were going to
Yeah.
do before they had last weekend, which is the
Right.
best part. Like,
She'll be on
know.
somebody's Mount Rushmore.
Oh, she will. There's no doubt. And I also was curious, so I asked the question when we got there on Friday, from a registration perspective, how many are repeat attendees? And it had to have been close to 80% of this year's attendees were camp participants last year.
Yeah.
Wow.
So that speaks volumes
It sure
of
does.
the program that she did, and we were so honored to be a part of it.
I also got asked on that panel, what's one word that embodies leadership for you? And my answer, and I'm going to ask you too the same question.
Okay.
And my answer was empathy.
Mm-hmm.
Because I think in leadership, when you lead all different kinds of people, or, you're in a group setting or whatever the situation is, it doesn't matter. Empathic leaders are evolved leaders.
Mm-hmm.
And, there's all different kinds of leadership, but leadership, to me, the best kind, is the kind that really cares about other people and what they're going through. And, like if you're the leader of a team and you don't personally know every family member's name of the people that you lead and what is going on with their life and genuinely care, you're missing out. So that was my one word. Okay, what's your
empathy? We should do a whole episode on that, because sometimes I feel like I have too much of it.
Oh my gosh, there's so
There
many
needs
great
to be
lessons.
a way to control it.
Control that.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
We should talk about that.
Let's do
Yeah.
that. Let's make sure that we add
Okay.
that to
Yeah.
an upcoming episode and have that be the focus.
Okay.
My word to define leadership, or what makes a good leader, is listen.
Good.
I think so often as leaders, they're pulled in so many different directions and they're moving so quickly that some of them listen to respond, they listen to give direction, they listen to give information,
Yeah.
but they don't listen to take in. That would be it for me.
That's good. What about you, Amy?
Trust.
Ooh,
Yes.
Oh,
I
that's
love
great.
that.
Another one of my Mount Rushmores would have been Brene Brown.
Oh, for
Oh,
sure.
for
And
sure.
she changed the word trust for me.
Yeah.
And earlier you asked me who my best friend was, and I said Michael, and you're like, besides him. That's the reason I don't have one, is because of that word. I haven't found that person.
So tell me how Brene reframed trust for you in a way that changed your perspective.
It was the sentence she said, when somebody is gossiping about somebody to you, they're probably gossiping about you to them.
Yeah.
And that was the end of gossiping for me, and listening to the gossip.
Absolutely.
So anytime somebody is gossiping to me, can't
no
do
room
it.
for it. And I do think as you surround yourself with a peer group that is goal-oriented, positive, reflect, certainly self-reflective on personal growth, I think you don't do that stuff anymore. That behavior, which I've engaged in it in my earlier years when I was a different version of me. There's just not. It's almost like it almost just feels sinful to me now, where I'm just
Yes.
ooh, that is
It's gross.
not somewhere I
Yeah.
want to go.
No.
Yeah.
But trust is when somebody sees somebody else trusting you, and you see why.
Yeah.
Great word.
I love that. So I would love if people would call in and tell us about the word that embodies leadership for them.
Yeah.
I think that would be cool.
I also would love to be exposed to other people's Mount Rushmore.
Totally. Yes.
I just-
Who's on your Mount Rushmore?
I would love to know who that is for people, because there have got to be some great leaders, some great impactful people in others' lives that we don't know about.
It would lead to such great
Oh,
conversation.
yeah,
It really
for sure.
would.
I would love
Yeah.
that.
Okay. How can
What-
people leave a message?
Before I get there,
yeah,
I have one question
Sure,
for you, if
yeah.
I may. What do you think was the highlight of this last couple of days for you? If you had, one, and it could be self-serving, it could be a takeaway to share, whatever it is. There's no right or wrong.
I love being exposed to new community, like new tribes of people. And I think the highlight for me was that it wasn't just about the golf, but it was about growing these girls into the best versions of themselves that they can be. And really, I honestly left there being like, North Dakota, growing women leaders, people who are going to rock life, not just the game of golf. Because do you want to kind of talk about, I loved what you said about the intangibles of the game, like why golf is so, it crosses so many boundaries, but also what does it teach you?
Yeah.
Especially as a woman in the world.
Yeah. I think the game of golf for me has taught me, and what I tried to impart on these young girls is it teaches you the ability to rely on yourself. It teaches you how to communicate in a difficult situation. It teaches you trust. It teaches you there is a camaraderie, there is a decorum to the game. There is a level of accountability and honesty, because there are times that you could be over by your ball by yourself, and are you a trustworthy person to play it as it lies? Or if there's nobody looking, are you maybe going to give yourself an advantage? How are you going to handle those situations? So it's such a complex game that teaches you so many life skills. It teaches you how to have a little swagger, It's okay to have some moxie. It's okay to have a little, chest puff. I love it. I love the game.
Can't tell.
No.
I sense a golf series. I sense a golf clinic coming up.
My takeaway from the weekend is kind of twofold. On a personal, on a personal note, not having met the other two women that you were on the leadership panel with, Cody and Kate, powerhouse, unbelievably intelligent and gifted, remarkable leaders and women that are strong and they own it, but they are graceful. They are
real, authentic.
They are well-spoken. They are connectors in their own world, just like we are. They believe in building community. So there are so many parallels to how we walk through life, and I'm really grateful to now know them.
Yeah. I was honored to be asked to be part of that panel, and, we hadn't met each other. The three of us hadn't met each other before that night. And it's great when you bring women kind of that caliber together, because there's just an instant sisterhood. We are all like, we're up here because we're team players and we're all for helping these girls be the best they can be. It's just unspoken. And I love getting plopped in the seats, right? And we all come, Kate comes from an investment place. Cody works in oil and gas, and then there's me that kind of does this advocacy life coaching thing. And it was a great synergy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The kind of kid in me, the other part.
Yeah.
That was my takeaway, is when we had the breakout groups and we asked all the kids to give us somebody that was on their Mount Rushmore. And one of the girls in our little group of 8 or 10 girls said that I was her person.
Oh my gosh.
Oh my gosh.
I thought you were going to cry.
Yeah, it was
so
awesome.
sweet.
It was so
You're
touching.
on my Mount Rushmore, yeah. I would pick you, she said.
Yeah.
You're Mount Rushmoreable.
It just, thanks for saying that. Checks in the mail. I will carry these last couple of days with me for a while. Total cup filler.
Total cup filler.
Yep.
Yeah.
We might be
So-
repeats.
And last episode, you weren't feeling so good. Do you feel better now?
Yeah, for sure. I just was in a funk. You know, the last episode last week, I was in just a world of so many plates spinning. Right, that's what we say. I had so many plates spinning, and I'm just trying not to drop any of them. And I was last. My cup was real empty, and so I guess the lesson, the takeaway there, if we break that down, is go volunteer. Go give your time to somebody that is in need or less fortunate, or where you can provide a measurable impact. You can show up for somebody that is going to make a difference. I know it feels
not that you were feeling this way, but honestly, doing something for someone else is the only 100% cure for self-pity or just feeling low or wallow. Your own pity party or poor me.
Yeah. Empty cup.
Get out of yourself and go do something for someone else, because it's like a hug. You can't do it for someone else without feeling the benefit. And a lot of times afterwards, you're the one, you're like, well, I know I did that good thing, but actually I benefited more.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
100%.
That's true.
So, yeah, let's get some.
How do people get in touch
Let's
with you?
get some
amazing
questions.
humans?
Let's get some names of people's Mount Rushmore and their word that defines leadership. And in order to do that, please leave us a message at our toll-free number, which is 844-605-LIFE, 844-605-5433, or send an email to info@theunicornprojects.com.
Yeah. And if you want to book life coaching for your teen for the summer, you can do that online. I do Zoom sessions and in person if you live local. And you can do that at www.blackhillsadvocate.com.
Perfect, baby. Great job.
Unicorn.
Unicorn.
Thank you for tuning in to the Unicorn Projects, hosted by Amy Rose with Jenny and Tina. Music by Caroline Kilty. Produced by Russ Haddon. Engineered by Chris Jaquez. It's the Unicorn Projects on the Home Slice Audio Network.